When Batman takes on the mighty Godzilla, the Dark Knight's ultimate weapon will be unleashed. But will it work against such a powerful monster? And just how powerful is this weapon anyway? What would happen to Gotham if it was deployed there? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. We all know that in the world of fiction, almost anything can happen, and there are very few limitations when it comes to what could occur. This makes for some truly unique stories. However, when one particular comic book writer came up with an idea to pit Batman against Godzilla, he really took things to the next level. In the pages of Detective Comics 827, written by Mike Mc, Batman comes face to face with the king of the monsters, and the Dark Knight doesn't waste any time in taking action. As soon as the fight begins, Batman immediately pulls out his secret weapon, which is basically a massive batarang that shoots a net and then wraps itself around whatever it is thrown at. The only problem here is that it doesn't seem like this would be effective against the mighty Godzilla. However, as we'll see, Batman has a plan, and this is merely the first step of it. Batman had known that Godzilla was coming for quite some time before the Comic-S events, and so he prepared accordingly. Because of this, the Dark Knight had already taken steps to ensure that he could take down Godzilla should the need arise. However, those plans would have to wait until the time was right, because if Batman tried to use his secret weapon too early, it wouldn't be nearly as effective as it would be later on. So Batman decides to engage Godzilla in battle and lead him towards his ultimate trap. At first, it seems like Batman is actually holding his own against the colossal beast, but the truth is that it's all part of Batman's plan. He needs to make Godzilla angry, and the only way to do that is to appear to be a worthy opponent. Of course, this isn't easy by any means. After all, Godzilla is one of the most powerful creatures in existence, but Batman manages to hold his own for quite some time, and eventually, Godzilla becomes enraged and makes a fatal mistake. In a moment of anger, Godzilla opens his mouth wide and lets out a deafening roar, and this is the exact moment that Batman has been waiting for. As Godzilla roars, Batman throws his giant bat and it flies through the air towards the open mouth of the beast. Once inside, the net expands and wraps itself around Godzilla's tongue, trapping it in place. Now Batman has the element of surprise on his side, and he wastes no time in taking advantage of it. The Dark Knight quickly gets to work, tying up Godzilla's mouth with the net, and once he's done, the battle is over. Now Batman has the king of the monsters completely under his control. All he has to do now is wait for backup to arrive, and then Godzilla will be taken care of. So why did Batman bring such a large batarang to the fight? Well, the answer is simple. He knew that Godzilla's tongue was its weak spot, and he also knew that the beast would eventually get angry and open its mouth wide enough for him to slip the net inside. With a little patience, Batman was able to outsmart Godzilla and capture it alive. The final page of the story shows us just how much damage Godzilla caused while it was wreaking havoc in Gotham City. We can see buildings destroyed, citizens injured, and the Batmobile completely crushed. It looks like Batman may have his work cut out for him if he wants to restore order to the city. But despite all the destruction, there is one thing that catches our eye. On the last page, we see a small building that appears to be completely undamaged, and if you look closely, you can see that there's a sign hanging outside that says Arkham Asylum. This tells us that even in the midst of all the chaos and destruction, some things remain safe. And perhaps the most important thing to Batman is the safety of his fellow humans. No matter how powerful a monster like Godzilla may be, it doesn't stand a chance against the Dark Knight's intellect and determination. But now let's talk about what would happen if Batman's secret weapon was used in Gotham. How would the people of Gotham react if they saw their beloved hero using such a powerful force against an unknown enemy? Would they cheer him on, or would they be terrified by the sheer power being displayed? Well, the answer is probably a mix of both. Most people would probably be too scared to cheer, but they would still appreciate Batman's efforts to protect them. After all, he's putting himself in danger in order to keep them safe. However, there would definitely be some people who would cheer Batman on. Those people would see the destruction caused by Godzilla and realize that something had to be done. They would understand that Batman was doing what he had to do to protect them, and they would show their support. Now let's take a closer look at the weapon itself. We know that it's a massive batarang, but what exactly is it capable of? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It can shoot a net and wrap itself around whatever it's thrown at, but the net is strong enough to hold back even Godzilla. This tells us that the weapon must be incredibly powerful, and we can assume that Batman only uses it as a last resort. After all, He is not going to use such a powerful weapon against someone like the Joker or Penguin unless he absolutely has to. But just how much destruction could this weapon cause? Well, that's a tough question to answer because it really depends on how it's used. If Batman were to throw it into a crowd of people, it could definitely cause some serious damage. But if he were to use it against a monster like Godzilla, it could potentially save lives. Ultimately, it's up to the user to decide how much destruction this weapon causes. But one thing's for sure, it's a powerful tool that should not be underestimated. Now let's take a look at the comics where this weapon was first introduced. Detective Comics 827 was released in 2011, and it was written by Mike Mick. The issue also featured artwork by Ben Stenbeck, Dave McCaig, and Richard St. The story takes place in the mainstream continuity of DC Comics, and it sees Batman come face to face with Godzilla. The comic was well received by fans and critics alike, and it is considered to be one of the best Batman stories of recent years. Another comic where this weapon could be useful is Batman and Dracula, Red Rain. This 4-issue miniseries was released in 1991, and it saw Batman take on the infamous vampire Dracula. The story was written by Marv Wolfman with artwork by Mike Mignola and others. The story is set in an alternate version of the DC universe where Dracula has invaded Gotham City and turned many of its citizens into vampires. Batman teams up with allies like Blade the Vampire Hunter in order to stop Dracula and save the city. This weapon could definitely come in handy when facing Dracula and his army of vampires. So what do you think? Is Batman's secret weapon strong enough to defeat Godzilla? And how would the people of Gotham react if they saw Batman using such a powerful force against an unknown enemy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to stay tuned for more updates. Thank you for watching and see you next time.